Have you ever wondered what would happen if the ground beneath your feet suddenly split open? If your entire city shook like a nightmare you couldn't wake up from? Earthquakes, a natural phenomenon that might seem distant, yet it's a constant source of fear for millions around the world. Every year, hundreds of thousands of earthquakes strike, and in some places they happen almost daily. From the dazzling neon-lit streets of Tokyo to the remote mountain villages of Nepal, from the deep ocean off the coast of Chile to the tightly packed neighborhoods of Turkey. These are the 10 places where the Earth never sleeps, and you're about to embark on a journey to the front lines, where nature never stops testing the resilience of humanity. Number 10. California, USA. The Golden State of America, home to big dreams, Hollywood lights, and one of the most fast-paced lifestyles in the world. But beneath this glittering surface lies something far more ominous than diamonds, a silent threat that builds day by day. California sits right on top of the infamous San Andreas Fault, making it one of the most earthquake-prone regions in the United States. Here, two massive tectonic plates, the Pacific and the North American, constantly grind past each other, triggering thousands of earthquakes every single year. In the past 5 years alone, over 50,000 tremors have been recorded across the state. One of them, the 7.1 magnitude Ridgecrest quake in 2019, shook Southern California to its core, sending shockwaves of fear through millions. And according to scientists, that was just the beginning. A far more catastrophic event, known as the Big One, could strike with a magnitude of 7.8 or higher, and there's a 70% chance it could happen within the next 30 years. When it hits, everything could collapse in the blink of an eye. Highways, overpasses, homes, power lines, water systems, all brought to a standstill in mere seconds. Californians live under the constant shadow of this danger. Kids are taught earthquake drills from a young age. Skyscrapers are engineered with cutting-edge seismic technology. But the question remains, is any of it enough to withstand nature's full fury? Because in California, the ground never truly sleeps. A perfectly normal day can become a disaster. You could be sipping coffee, driving down the freeway, or riding an elevator, and then suddenly everything shakes. No warning, no countdown, just 10 seconds to survive. Number 9. New Zealand. A stunning island nation tucked away in the southwestern Pacific Ocean. World famous for its majestic mountains, ancient rainforests, and vast open plains that once brought Middle-earth to life in The Lord of the Rings. But beneath that breathtaking beauty lies one of the most dangerous seismic zones on Earth. New Zealand sits directly on the boundary between two colossal tectonic plates, the Pacific Plate and the Australian Plate. These giants are in a constant slow-motion collision, grinding, sliding, and crashing against each other centimeter by centimeter year after year. This unrelenting movement has turned the country into a seismic pressure cooker, always on the verge of releasing energy. In just the past 5 years, this nation of under 5 million people has experienced thousands of earthquakes, with 400 to 600 quakes of magnitude 4.0 or higher every year. The most haunting reminder of this reality came in 2011, when a 6.3 magnitude earthquake struck Christchurch. Despite its moderate size, it caused the deaths of 185 people and shattered the nation's confidence, even in a place used to living with earthquakes. And yet, life goes on. People here continue to live, work, and build, right on top of fault lines. In the capital city of Wellington, skyscrapers are built with flexible cores that sway like bamboo when the ground begins to shake. Children learn earthquake drills from preschool. Every household keeps an emergency kit by the door, not out of panic, but out of preparedness. Because here, the question isn't if an earthquake will happen, it's when. In October 2023, that question was answered again, when a 6.0 magnitude quake struck beneath Cook Strait, right between the North and South Islands. There were no major casualties, but the message was loud and clear. New Zealand's beauty comes at a cost. Because in this land, the Earth is never truly still. It breathes deep, invisible breaths from beneath the ground. And one day it will rise again, in fury. Number 8. Nepal, a small nation tucked between two giants, China and India, known for its majestic mountains, sacred temples, and of course Mount Everest, the rooftop of the world. But behind this awe-inspiring beauty lies a harsh reality. Nepal sits right on the collision zone of two massive tectonic plates, the Indian Plate and the Eurasian Plate, where a violent geological battle is constantly underway. This colossal collision doesn't just push the Himalayas higher every year. It also pushes Nepal closer to disaster. Nepal is one of the most seismically active regions in Asia. Over the past 5 years, it has recorded hundreds of earthquakes, many striking densely populated areas with fragile infrastructure. But nothing compares to what happened on April 25, 2015. A magnitude 7.8 earthquake rocked the entire nation in less than a minute. Yet in that short moment, nearly 9,000 lives were lost, and over 22,000 people were injured. The capital city, Kathmandu, was left in ruins. Ancient temples that had stood for centuries crumbled into dust. Millions were left homeless. Images of landslides tearing down the Himalayas, melting snow, and panicked citizens fleeing collapsing buildings became seared into the memory of a country brought to its knees by the fury of the earth. Since that day, the fear has never truly left. Many Nepalese now live in hastily reinforced homes. Evacuation drills are routine. Emergency kits are kept close, not out of paranoia, but out of necessity. But with a weak economy and fragile infrastructure, Nepal remains vulnerable, like a delicate leaf caught in the eye of a seismic storm. And scientists have a chilling warning. The fault line beneath Nepal is still storing energy. Another earthquake, possibly even stronger, is waiting to be unleashed. When? No one knows. All we do know is this. On the edge between two continental giants, time is never still. And the ground keeps shifting, millimeter by millimeter, like the ticking of a countdown clock to the next quake. Number 7. Papua New Guinea. Tucked away in the southwestern Pacific Ocean, Papua New Guinea is one of the most remote and mysterious lands on Earth. Dense jungles, rugged mountains, and isolated tribes untouched by modern civilization, all combine to form a nation that is as wild as it is fascinating. But beneath that thick, ancient soil lies one of the most violently seismic regions on the planet. Papua New Guinea sits at the crossroads of 4 major tectonic plates: the Pacific, Indo-Australian, Bismarck, and Solomon plates. A geological nightmare that scientists have dubbed the seismic skull of the Pacific. And when these colossal slabs of Earth collide, everything above, villages, forests, and lives, can be torn apart in seconds. Over the past 5 years, Papua New Guinea has endured thousands of earthquakes, including dozens over magnitude 6.0, many of them devastating. One of the worst struck on February 26, 2010, a 7.5 magnitude quake that leveled hundreds of villages in the Hela and Southern Highlands. At least 160 people were killed, thousands more lost their homes, and vital infrastructure, roads, water, electricity, collapsed into silence for weeks. Landslides thundered down mountainsides, burying entire communities, many so remote they had no internet, no phone signal, and no way to call for help. And perhaps most terrifying of all was the silence before. Papua New Guinea has no modern earthquake warning system. Most people live in fragile homes made of wood and palm leaves clinging to steep hillsides, and every tremor could be the last sunrise they ever see. And yet, life goes on. They still forage. They still hunt. They still pass down ancient languages under the forest canopy, on land that exists outside of maps. They're not afraid of the ground breaking. They're afraid of being forgotten. And deep in the jungle shadows beneath the feet of these resilient people, the earth never sleeps. Not yearly, not monthly, daily. Papua New Guinea is not just isolated. It is a hollow drum echoing with the heartbeat of the earth. Powerful, sudden, and sometimes a final call. Number 6. Mexico. the land of ancient civilizations, where towering Mayan pyramids rise from dense jungles, and modern cities like Mexico City shine across the Central American plateau. But beneath that vibrant beauty lies a restless secret. Mexico sits on one of the most dangerous tectonic intersections on Earth. On the western edge of the North American plate, Mexico is being relentlessly crushed by the Cocos Plate, an oceanic slab that is slowly yet violently diving beneath the continent. This grinding collision has made Mexico a hot spot for powerful earthquakes, and what's terrifying is, the destruction comes in cycles. Over the past 5 years alone, Mexico has recorded more than 15,000 earthquakes, many of them alarmingly close to densely populated cities. And the nightmare etched into the national memory happened on September 19, 2010. A 7.1 magnitude quake struck without warning right in the heart of Mexico City. More than 370 lives were lost. Dozens of buildings collapsed within minutes. But the most chilling detail? That earthquake struck on the exact same day, September 19th, as the devastating 1985 quake that killed over 10,000 people and plunged the nation into mourning. Two disasters, same city, same date, same hour. It feels less like coincidence and more like a geological curse. For the people of Mexico, the fear of earthquakes is real, and it runs deep. Every year, on September 19th, the entire country conducts a massive earthquake drill. Sirens wail, evacuation routes are practiced, not out of tradition, but out of survival. Schools, offices, apartment buildings, all are trained to respond. Not to avoid disaster, but to outlast it. Because when the ground begins to shake, no one is truly prepared, especially in a city like Mexico City, which sits atop soft, ancient lakebed soil. This loose ground doesn't absorb the shaking, it amplifies it. Double, triple, until buildings sway like trees, and fall like dominoes. Beneath Mexico's soil, the fury of the earth hasn't faded. We're not safe. We're just waiting for the next one. Number 5, Iran. A land steeped in ancient beauty. The cradle of Persian civilization, where centuries-old cities rise from the desert. Turquoise domes touch the sky, and prayers echo through the silence of the night. But beneath that rich history lies a fracture quietly tearing the earth apart. Iran sits between two massive tectonic plates, the Arabian Plate and the Eurasian Plate, locked in a relentless collision that has lasted millions of years. This isn't just movement. It's a violent geological war, and Iran is the battlefield. In the last 5 years alone, the country has endured tens of thousands of tremors, over 1,000 of them stronger than magnitude 4.0, stretching from the Zagros Mountains to the shores of the Caspian Sea. But the numbers don't tell the whole story. Because every few years, Iran is struck by something far worse. A killer quake, one of the most tragic hit in 2003, when a 6.6 magnitude earthquake struck the ancient city of Bam. In just 12 seconds, the city was reduced to rubble. Over 26,000 lives lost. Bam, once a jewel of Persian architecture, vanished into dust. Then in 2010, the Kermanshah region shook in the dead of night. A 7.3 quake left nearly 600 people dead and tens of thousands homeless. The scars of those nights have never healed. Iran isn't just sitting on a fault line. It lies atop a complex web of seismic fractures, where any region could become the next epicenter. Worse still, many densely populated areas are filled with unreinforced brick and concrete buildings, structures that can crumble within seconds of a quake. The people of Iran have learned to live with risk. They no longer scream when the ground trembles. They don't always run. But deep down they remember. They remember the nights when no one woke up. Authorities have improved emergency training. Early warning systems are expanding. But in a country this vast, with a history written in rubble, the question remains, will it ever be enough? Iran's ground still shifts, millimeter by millimeter, every year. A small number, but a sign of a massive future. The next earthquake, no one knows when. But it will come, and it just might be tonight. Number 4, Turkey. A land where empires rose and fell, where east meets west, and where the past and present intertwine under the domes of mosques and Byzantine arches. But beneath that timeless beauty lies a terrifying geological truth. Turkey sits atop the North Anatolian Fault, one of the most active and dangerous seismic zones on Earth. This is not a land that might shake. It's a land that constantly does. Every year, Turkey records over 20,000 earthquakes, from barely detectable tremors to violent ruptures capable of leveling entire cities in mere seconds. For the past 5 years, the people of Turkey have lived with a quiet dread. And then, on February 6, 2023, just before dawn, that dread became reality. A 7.8 magnitude earthquake struck near Gaziantep in southeastern Turkey, the most catastrophic quake in the country's modern history. But the nightmare didn't stop there. Less than 9 hours later, a second earthquake, magnitude 7.5, struck the same region. The devastation was unimaginable. Over 50,000 lives lost, hundreds of thousands of buildings reduced to rubble, more than 13 million people affected. Entire regions, Hatay, Kahramanmaraş, Malatya, turned into wastelands within hours. The sounds of collapse, of crying, of people calling out from beneath the ruins, echoed through the frozen night. While the world watched from screens, beneath the concrete, time was running out. The people of Turkey know the ground they stand on is not stable. Children are taught to crawl under desks. Adults never let their phones run out of battery. And in Istanbul, a megacity of over 15 million people, the fear of the next big one is no longer just anxiety. It's a generational shadow. Experts warn the segment of the fault beneath Istanbul is building pressure. And when it finally releases, the consequences could be even more devastating than what happened in 23. In Turkey, everyone knows. The question is not if, it's when. And when that moment comes, will there be time to run, or will there be only silence? The silence of fallen buildings, and of hearts that stopped beating. Beneath a restless earth? Number 3. Chile. A long and narrow strip of land, like a fracture along the western edge of South America, squeezed between the vast Pacific Ocean and the towering Andes Mountains. But beneath that rugged natural beauty lies one of the most seismically violent zones on the planet. Chile sits on the eastern edge of the Pacific Ring of Fire, where the Nazca Plate is relentlessly subducting beneath the South American plate, a slow, grinding collision that builds unimaginable pressure. And when that pressure breaks, the Earth doesn't just shake. It explodes like a nuclear blast. In just the past 5 years, Chile has experienced over 40,000 earthquakes, hundreds above magnitude 5.0, dozens exceeding 6.5, powerful enough to flatten small cities. But for the people of Chile, this is nothing new, because they have survived the most powerful earthquake ever recorded in human history. Valdivia, 1960, magnitude 9.5. A number so staggering it almost defies belief. The ground shook for nearly 10 minutes straight, unleashing tsunamis up to 25 meters high. Nearly 2,000 lives were lost. The devastation reached as far as Hawaii, the Philippines, even Japan. And as if history wanted to remind them, in 2010, another quake, magnitude 8.8, struck near Concepcion, killing over 500 people and leaving 2 million homeless. Bridges snapped, buildings collapsed, and cries for help echoed through the night. But the people of Chile have lived in the arms of earthquakes for so long, they've learned to survive with them, not against them. Buildings are now designed with cutting-edge seismic resistance. Children are trained in evacuation drills from a young age. And in cities like Santiago or Valparaiso, earthquake alarms are as routine as morning alarm clocks. What makes Chile unique isn't just how often the earth moves. It's how they rise with it. In a land where the ground could split open at any moment, they don't live in fear. They live in preparation. Because they understand. Nature doesn't hate us. It simply does what it does. And what matters is how we respond. Chile doesn't just sit on a fault line. Chile is the fault line. And right there, on that trembling edge of the world, they've built a nation that shakes but never falls. Number 2, Indonesia. An island nation stretching like a string of pearls between the Pacific and Indian Oceans. over 17,000 islands, hundreds of active volcanoes, and one chilling truth: this is one of the most unstable places on Earth. Nowhere on the planet feels the power of the Pacific Ring of Fire more than Indonesia. Sitting at the crossroads of four massive tectonic plates, the Eurasian, Indo-Australian, Pacific, and Philippine plates, Indonesia is like a pressure cooker being pulled in every direction. And when one of those forces breaks the balance, disaster doesn't begin, it erupts. In the past 5 years alone, Indonesia has recorded over 50,000 earthquakes, hundreds of them above magnitude 5.0 and many crossing the 7.0 threshold. But what makes this place one of the deadliest seismic zones on Earth is the lethal link between earthquakes and tsunamis. On December 26, 2004, a 9.1 magnitude earthquake struck off the coast of Sumatra. Moments later, a monstrous tsunami swept across the entire Indian Ocean. More than 230,000 lives were lost. Indonesia suffered the most. A peaceful morning turned into a global nightmare within minutes. Bodies washed ashore. Villages vanished. And the silence afterward was more terrifying than the sound of collapse. But the horror didn't end there. In 2010, a 7.5 magnitude quake struck Palu on the island of Sulawesi. The ground shook, but what came next was worse. Soil liquefaction, the earth literally turned to liquid. Entire neighborhoods, cemeteries, and lives were swallowed whole, as if the ground itself opened its mouth and consumed its people. For Indonesians, earthquakes are not rare events. They are a part of daily life. Children are taught evacuation drills in elementary school. Coastal communities listen to tsunami alerts, like whispers from the gods. But no amount of preparation can ever make you truly ready when nature unleashes its fury. Here, people don't try to conquer nature. They listen to it, adapt to it, and rise again after every loss. Indonesia, a land where natural beauty is also a blade constantly hanging overhead. And yet, no matter how hard the earth shakes, the spirit of its people never crumbles. Number 1, Japan. The land of cherry blossoms, samurai spirit, cutting-edge technology, and dazzling cities. But behind that serenity lies an undeniable truth. Japan is the most earthquake-prone country on Earth. Like a fragile ship adrift atop 4 colossal tectonic plates, the Pacific, Philippine, North American, and Eurasian, the Japanese archipelago was born from fire and is still being forged by the relentless movements of the Earth. Every year, Japan experiences over 100 earthquakes. That's more than 4 a day. And no one knows which one will be the next to change everything. In the past 5 years, thousands of tremors have shaken this nation. But the world will never forget that afternoon. March 11, 2010. A 9.0 magnitude megathrust earthquake struck off the coast of Tohoku. And for nearly a minute, the Earth itself seemed to hold its breath. Then came the tsunami. Waves up to 40 meters high slammed into the northeast coast of Japan, devouring homes, ships, cars, and lives. Nearly 20,000 people died. 2,500 went missing, and hundreds of thousands were left without homes. But the horror didn't stop there. The Fukushima nuclear plant was crippled. Radiation leaked, and what began as a natural disaster became the worst nuclear crisis since Chernobyl. One day, 3 catastrophes: earth, water, radiation. A triple strike from nature, as if the planet itself had unleashed its fury. And yet, the Japanese people did not bow. Where there was grief, they rebuilt. Where there was rubble, they rose. In a country where every brick may shake, every skyscraper is designed to sway, not fall. Here, the people don't just live with earthquakes. They live on their back. Japan has turned fear into discipline, loss into innovation, and memory into strength. When the sirens sound, they don't panic, they move. When the ground shifts, they don't flee, they stand. In this nation, earthquakes are no longer enemies. They are part of the identity. Japan, number 1 in earthquakes, and number 1 in resilience. Because in a land where the earth never stops shaking, only the strongest hearts keep beating. And those are the lands where the ground has never truly slept, where every tremor not only shatters buildings, but tests the limits of human endurance. In nature's fury, entire cities have vanished. Villages have been swallowed whole. But somehow people rise from the rubble. They wipe their tears, take each other's hands, and choose to keep going. Because even when the ground splits open and the sky seems to collapse, the human spirit does not break so easily. In places where earthquakes are part of daily life, courage isn't a slogan. It's a way of being. It's in every small action, every ordinary day. And perhaps the most extraordinary thing of all is that despite knowing the earth can shake at any moment, they still choose to live, to build, to love, and to smile. Because in the end, it's not nature that's the strongest, it's the spirit of those who never give up. If you found this journey meaningful, please leave a like, subscribe for more stories from the restless earth, and share this video with those who are also living with their own quiet battles. Thank you for staying with us until the end, and until next time, we'll see you again in the lands where the earth still tells its stories.